Welcome everybody to today's webinar, Plenum Spaces in Revit. My name is Chris Porter. I obviously didn't make it up on the banner today, Tony. But we do appreciate you guys logging in. It looks like we have quite a few people. Feel free to ask questions along the way. Make them as difficult as you want, because Tony should be able to answer everything and anything
That's right.
about Plenum Spaces in Revit. So.
And life in general, and peace
Correct.
and zen,
and
the weather. And
correct.
Did you know I'm building a time machine?
Yes.
Sorry, is that too much of a tangent? Never mind. Not going.
I have no idea what he's talking about. It's too early in the morning for this. So
It is.
anyway, we do appreciate you guys logging in for this. We'll be talking about some of the stuff that we have going on. We're actually going to have Carla joining us a little bit later for to kind of touch base on our mobile labs. So sit tight for that.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, just admin details really quick. You've probably seen this before. As soon as there we go. As soon as the lag clears up. If you, and now I always do this because it's funny. If you can't hear me, you can change how you listen on the screen from mic and speakers to telephone, and then call in with the number that I don't have on the screen because it's different every time. But the invitation that you have has the right phone number and the right access code, the webinar ID, so you can call in via the phone. And just to check if you can hear me on the toolbar, if you could raise your hand on the GoToMeeting floating toolbar. Just go ahead and hit the hand raising. It's on the upper left. You can see where it says raise your hand is on the screen. And while people are raising their hands, okay, we've got a couple. Yeah, go ahead.
They may not be paying attention.
Like me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, look at Jubal's nails are very well done on that hand. Very nice.
Is that a manicure?
Yes.
On a virtual hand.
Virtual hand.
So if you need to minimize the console, just get out of your way. There's a little orange arrow there. If you want to ask questions, just type in your questions right there, and Chris will pass them on to me because he's on the side where he can read the questions. Let's see, anything else on this one? I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Any other admin details? Oh, I expect this to be what?
Jubal. He
Okay.
just had his nails done.
I expect this to be a little less than an hour, but I say that every time when I end up using up the whole hour because it's always just, and then one more thing and one more tip, one more trick. So I think this
one more thing.
Yeah, one more.
Columbo.
Yeah. Sorry,
Or Steve Jobs.
you're too old for me there.
We're almost the same age. So anyway.
Right. So I think this will be under an hour. It's fairly straightforward. So I'll be putting in some tips and tricks, some efficiencies, which I think is part of the reason a lot of people have not been adding spaces to their plenum area because it's extra work. But I'll show you some ways I can make that a little more efficient. So yeah, we'll be looking at spaces in Revit and, sorry, wrong kind of space. We'll be looking at spaces in Revit. I need to update my slide deck apparently. I don't know who did that. Alrighty, we'll be looking at, it's going to be specific to mechanical, just mechanical load class. There's not a lot of benefit for electrical, not a lot of benefit in this for, what am I going to say, architecture, plumbing, a little bit for, well, I was going to say for lighting, but not really. Lighting designers might use the spaces. Revit can give you an average lighting level per room, but you don't need the spaces in the Plenum, the Revit spaces. So the space element in Revit is similar to the rooms. Revit architecture has rooms. Revit MEP has rooms and spaces. The spaces, this is as best as I can show you in 3D is what they look like. As in this screenshot, this is the only way to do them in 3D because their standard 3D view just does not show spaces. So this is a building with just the spaces shown in green.
Analyzed, right?
Yeah, that was about to be analyzed. And I'll get back. Actually, I can show you where I got that screenshot when I get to the end of the webinar. Mm-hmm. So we'll be going through the how, the what, the where, or the what, the why, the when, and the how. And the how will be the longest one. That'll be in Revit. So what they are, spaces contain engineering data useful for heating and cooling load calculations. Load calcs can be done in Revit. They do use the properties of the space elements.
What were people doing for load calcs before Revit could do this?
Spreadsheets, train trace. There's third-party programs. There's Carrier HAP, train trace. There's eQuest.
So those are not required anymore now that Revit can do that.
You can do it either way. I don't know that Autodesk is trying to fully replace them, but it will save you a lot of time. Since you're already modeling it in Revit, you already have the information there. You might as well finish adding your information in Revit and then export it to any of these programs. And then you don't have to recreate it entirely in one of those programs. So there's some benefit there, and not have to reinvent the wheel or rebuild it twice. It just saves you some time. What was I going to say?
Exporting out to JBXML.
Thank you. You can also export that to the GBXML format, which stands for,
Green Building XML, which is an Excel spreadsheet format. Says the sales guy.
Yeah. Well, it's not really Excel. That stands for Extensible Markup Language. But
Yeah.
Excel can also use that and export it.
Yep.
So I'll give you half a point for that.
Thank you.
I was going to ask the audience to see if anybody knew, but now I'll have. Now if I ask them, it just doesn't count. So, and these third-party programs can use this. Like the Train Trace is the one that I hear most often, and I've read recently that eQuest, or the DO, which uses I think DOE2 engine, is the most popular because it has one big benefit of being free. But being free, there's not really any tech support or any support with that. And as somebody pointed out, if you live in California, it's not really free either because it's paid for by your taxes, I believe. So what spaces are, why we use them? When spaces are added to rooms in Revit, they're automatically stopping. So space is essentially the void within a room. It's the airspace. If you've used the boundary command in AutoCAD, it's vaguely similar to that. It'll find the perimeter of a room no matter how complicated, but it does it in 3D. The ceiling, the floor, the windows, it finds the perimeter of the room. So it's by stopping at bounding elements such as ceilings, walls, doors, floors, floor slabs, structural items, and it leaves. But when it does that, say it hits the ceiling, so you have your standard 2x4 or a chipboard drop ceiling, and your equipment is above that. The space you've placed in all those rooms does not extend above that because the ceiling is a bounding element. So it leaves a void where there's no space, where there's no engineering data. You don't know what the load calcs are, and you don't know the loads, the heating loads, the cooling loads, the people loads, the heat contributions, what they are in Revit, because you don't have anything to add those properties to. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to add those spaces in the ceiling, above the ceiling in the plenum, so that we can use those in the load calcs. And by having those in there, it increases the accuracy of your load calculations, because areas in a building model, a building information model, that don't have the space element, it just assumes to be open to the outdoor air. There's just no data there. Well, it must be outdoor air. So I'll put spaces in the plenums. Then we can set those to be unoccupied, unheated, uncooled. In fact, there's one checkbox. We can just set those to be a plenum. And this can be done relatively quickly, and I say relatively because it depends on the complexity of the model. If it's a very basic commercial building, it'll go pretty quickly. If it's very creative with ceiling heights, it can just take a little bit longer because you have to, it depends on the ceiling heights. When would you add plenum spaces for analysis in Revit? These are useful whenever you're going to do heating. That passes spell check. Heating and cooling load calculations. Whenever they're going to be performed based on the Revit model, whether that's within Revit or the Revit model is exported to something else. And when should you do this? The more complete the architectural model is, the more complete the building is, the better your analysis will be. Obviously, the better information going into the analysis, the better information will get out, and that's kind of true with anything. I would recommend doing it after the ceilings have been added, because if the drop ceilings are not there, then you can't really do this. So hopefully all their walls are enclosed, the rooms are enclosed, and the ceilings are in there. And then how would you do this? Well, this is going to be the meat of the presentation and the basic steps, which if you've taken any of my Revit MEP classes here at CAD-1 over the past while, chapters, assuming you still have your book, Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 go through these steps and quite a bit more. So the very basic steps: create a new level at the ceiling level, where the drop ceiling is, just for making the plenum spaces. This is not something you'll use for anything else. It could be useful depending on your other processes. We'll create a level there, and then we'll make a view from that. It's the second step here. You create a new level, create a new floor plan based on this level, and we'll add spaces within that plenum area. Now, this view will probably never appear on a sheet. It's not going to be used for anything else, but you almost have to do this to add the spaces within there. Step 3, we'll add the spaces, and we'll set their top offset as the level for the floor above. They'll extend up to the slab, or whatever the next bounding element is. We'll set their top offset, which is the maximum top offset. If it doesn't hit any bounding elements, it will stop when it hits whatever we specify. typically the floor above, or did you have something?
No, just to let everybody know, we are trying to record this. Sometimes we do mess up, but we are recording this, and we should be able to post this up to our website a little bit later. It does take us a little bit to edit it. A lot of it is just trying to figure out when and where Tony had bad jokes.
Yeah, you want to cut those out.
Yeah.
Although then there might not be anything left. Oh, come on. There it is, the big blue R. So I'm going to go through the steps in Revit. So first thing we need is an architectural file with enclosed boundaries, with ceilings in it. And I'm assuming that you already have spaces. I guess you don't need those, but I'm assuming you have the spaces in the rooms in the floor plan. Oops. And you can see in this section, which is the next step, I have spaces in here. They've already been added, but they stop when they hit this drop ceiling. Level 2 is up here. Oh, that's sorry. I'm on the second floor, so that's the roof. If I hover over that, you should be able, oh, the tooltips are not coming through on the GoToMeeting. Well, you can look down at the status bar at the bottom of the screen. It tells me that I'm hovering over a level. It's over level 2. So you can see the ceiling does not go all the way up there. In fact, my spaces in here are stopped at the bounding elements: walls, doors, floors, slabs, and ceilings. So we need something to put above these, above this plenum space, to add the engineering data. If you look at my properties, while I have one of these rooms selected, come on, and these are a little bit tricky. And if you haven't already worked with them, it's this X. Since there's not anything physical about a space, it's the airspace within a room. It's the void. Revit gives you this X to click on. And in case you're wondering, I can move the center around. If I tag this, and we're more likely in a floor plan, the tag goes at the center of this X by default. So this one has properties. It's got a lighting level work plane. I've got reflectance for the lighting analysis. I've got design loads. Okay, these are all set to 0. I've got specified airflows. I have names and numbers, and I have a condition type. This space is heated and cooled. I can say it's heated only, cooled only. You know, maybe it's a server room, computer server room, that would only be cooled. I can say it's unconditioned, vented, natural. Anyway, I have these properties in here. This is why we use these. I have the design load, cooling loads at the bottom. This is what spaces are useful for, is the engineering MEP data, mostly M and E, not so much for plumbing. So I need some of these above the plenum space so I can have an accurate analysis. First thing I need to do, if you remember the steps, I'm going to create a new level just for making these spaces. How do I make a level? Well, here's one of the first tips. I know I need to make a new level. I may or may not remember where that's at on the ribbon, because honestly, I don't make levels very often in MEP. I just bring in the architects. So it's rare that I will actually make a level. I can select one, right click, and create similar. There's even a keyboard shortcut. I believe out of the box it's CS for create similar. In AutoCAD it would be add selected. So this is a handy little tool, and it would have saved me lots of time if I had not been talking about it. So I'm going to create a new level, and if anyone knows the difference between starting from right to left and left to right, another little tip if you haven't already noticed this. So I've made my level. I'm going to end the command, and it's got the bubble on the left but not the right, but I have the check mark here. I can, the tooltips are not showing up. On my screen it says show bubble. If you look down at the very, very bottom left of my screen, it tells me show bubble. So if I hover over this, and if I click on this, the status bar, it's just like a command line, tells me what I'm...
Show them what you're talking about.
Well, if I move my mouse, then it disappears. So I can't show you.
Yeah, so right above where it says Citrix on the side, I don't know if you guys can see that either, but yeah, it's right above Project Browser on the left-hand side. Took me a second to see it too.
Yeah, and I wish I could point it out, but if I move my mouse to point it out, then it clears itself.
Move fast.
Yes, that's how I take a self-portrait. I hold the camera really still.
Here, just ping it right here and then show them.
Chris is pointing with his finger. Can everybody see that?
I'm saying, do the arrow. So right there is where it's...
Oh, yes. Down at the bottom left, where my cursor is now.
Right.
Okay. I thought you were trying to point with your finger at the screen.
I'm saying move your cursor there. More editing.
So, yeah. I'm not going to guarantee this one's going to end up on the web, because
it will.
There's just too much to edit out. So, did anybody notice that this came in with the name of Plenum 1? How did I do that? Well, in my template, my project template, because I knew this was the next thing I was going to create, I created a level called Plenum 0, and then I deleted it, because all I needed to do was reset the naming within Revit. So this one automatically comes in as Plenum 0, sorry, Plenum 1. The next one I create will be called Plenum 2, which well, I can do it right now. So how do we do that? I can right-click and create similar is one of my favorite shortcuts. I can create one here and just draw the plenum in there. And again, if I draw from left to right, it would end up at the right place. So we're not going to use this one, so I'm not going to worry about the location too much. Plenum 1, however, it's at 7 feet. I don't want it to be at 7 feet. I want it to be at, well, I don't know yet. I need to figure out where the ceiling's at. I could select the ceiling. I can hover tab click on it, or I could just do a dimension to not that part, because I know it's already 9 feet. There we go. So instead of grabbing the top of the ceiling, I want to add the plenum level at the bottom of the ceiling. It's better to give it a little too much space than not enough, because Revit the space will automatically stop when it hits the ceiling, the bounding element. So now I know my level should be at 9 feet, so it corresponds with the ceiling of this building. You can see it's a 2-story building. It looks something like this. This is a 3D building. The left side, the 2 wings there, are classrooms. They're pretty standard, pretty consistent. On the right side of the building, though, there's some complexity. We've got a big gymnasium. It's the large piece. This end of the building is a gymnasium. There's a cafeteria and a kitchen, and they all have different ceiling heights. So we'll see how much time we have at the end. I will look at some of those and the complexities. That makes it a little more complicated if there's multiple ceiling heights. Let me close this for now. So that's basically what the building looks like. So I need my plenum to match. For now, I'm going to start on the left side of the building, because that's where most of the ceilings are at. I'm going to need to set my plenum to be 9 feet. So if you haven't already worked with that, I just click once, click twice. It's different than a double click, although double click works now too, but it doesn't always. Double click will also do other things depending on what you're working on. And change that to be 9 feet. My plenum changed everywhere. Oh, I forgot to point out a step. I always do this. I start talking and get ahead of myself. Well, let me point this step out. In fact, another handy little tip, the undo button. Undo is your friend if you haven't already figured that out. If I hit the little triangle next to the undo, and hopefully most of you have already been using this when necessary, and I'm sure you never ever need to use undo. If I hit the triangle next to it, it gives me my last steps. And unlike AutoCAD, it doesn't include panning and zooming, which is nice. There's not hundreds of IntelliZooms or pan and zoom extents listed in there. Those don't count for the undo. I want to go back 3 steps. I can see I want to go back till I created my previous level. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to create it again. So to do that, I'm going to use the same steps, select the level, create similar, just because it's the quickest way to do it. And I tell people to always look at the options bar. It's the green bar across the top. And did I do it myself? No, I didn't. So do as I say, not as I do sometimes. I want to check this box for make a plan view. The box at the top on my green bar, I'm going to check it to make a plan view, because I'm going to need a view for this anyway, so I might as well make it now. And there's a button next to that. What kind of plan view do I want to create? Do I want a ceiling plan, floor plan, structural? Actually, I just want a floor plan. I don't need a structural. I don't need a ceiling plan for this. I just need a floor plan. So I'll check the box to make one, and I'll tell Revit what kind of plan view to make. Now I can continue with my command for making the level. And if I go from left to right, there's Plenum 2, which I won't use, so we're just going to keep on moving. We're not going to do anything on the second floor. Okay, so we've done step 1, created a new level just for making plenums. Step 2, use this new level as a floor plan. So we just had Revit, it created a floor plan. So we need to go to that floor plan, and then we can add spaces, which is steps 2 and 3, add spaces within this floor plan. Going back to Revit, I'm done with this view. Let's find my floor plan. Oh, look, I have under mechanical, I have something called plenums. I have a subdiscipline called plenums. And I have 2 floor plans that are named after the levels I created. Let me go ahead and open those up. And how, you may ask, did Revit know to put it under mechanical, to put it under plenums? Where did I tell it that? Well, when I make a new view, I can tell Revit. So I'm going, since nothing is selected, I have my properties box shows me the properties of my view, my floor plan. If I go to my edit type, I can tell Revit view template to be added to new views. So I knew that the next few views I would be making would be plenum, so I came in here and set this to be plenums. Set the view template to be plenums. And there's two things in here. Set it to be plenums, but they're not dependent on it. So it's just a one-time application. So the next view I create will be based on this view template. What's in this view template? Well, you can see most of the things are unchecked on the right. I just have visibility graphics for model annotation and links. I have the view range set because I know that's going to be custom. In fact, let me go ahead and pull that up. So all of these things are already set. My view range is already set. I haven't even touched it yet. And I wouldn't even need to, but I'm demonstrating it. I'm showing you so you can see what's already been done. This is one of the things that makes Revit more efficient. If you've been struggling with trying to cut back on the time that's spent in making a project in Revit, the more you do up front, and I mean before you even get the project, before you even get the contract, there's things you can do in Revit that will make the project go a lot faster. Most of them are in your Revit template. So if I have this set up ahead of time, if I have view templates, when I get the project, I create a view, bam, my view is set up. I don't have to go into visibility graphics. I don't have to go into view range. All this is already done. I can have schedules. I can have lots of other things in there. Everything except work sets. And this is just one of those. So my view range, because this is above the ceiling, it's got a very different view range. You can see I've already set it to be 3'3". That's not very deep. And I set my cut plane to be 6 inches above the ceiling. So this is a very custom view range. But mine is already set because I have it set in this view template, which I told Revit to apply it to all my new views. Mechanical is the discipline, and plenums, I made a new one, just typed it in, made a new subdiscipline. Bam, I'm already done. As soon as I created this view, it was done. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. And my second floor, same thing, it's done. Visibility graphics, you see this looks fairly clean. I don't have any lights, I don't have any conduit. Plumbing fixtures, well, there wouldn't be any up in the ceiling, but I have most of that turned off. I have customized some halftones, some sections. Just spent a little bit of time in visibility graphics. And if I do that when I'm setting up my template, I don't have to do it again. Once and done. So what do we do now? We're in the plenum space. We're up above the ceiling. So I'm not seeing if there was furniture in here. I could not see it. Well, there wouldn't be furniture because I'm up a bit above the plenum, if you can picture that in your mind. This floor plan is not on the floor. It's just looking at the space between the drop ceiling, the gypboard, the 2x4 or 2x2s, no, whatever they are, the ceiling tiles, and the slab above. That's the area that I'm looking at. So you can see there's ducting in here, there's mechanical equipment, and I've hidden the cable tray, conduit, plumbing, things like that. So what are we doing? Steps 2 and 3 are adding spaces. And I made a note in here, setting their top offset as the level for the floor above, asterisk, because that's going to change just a little bit. It depends on what's above. Could be a roof, could be another, could be several different things, but I didn't want to go into all those caveats on a slide. So let's add these spaces. Come on, there it is. On the Analyze tab of the ribbon, oh, I'm already on the Analyze tab. There's a space button. Tell us to create the spaces. Tells us how to create the spaces. The cut plane is lower than, I think I've played around with this while I was playing around with this last night because I made some changes. Now, for a while I was trying to place spaces automatically, but actually let me close out of this command and show you why. Right now, I need to fix my view template just a little bit. You can see, hang on a second, am I in the right floor plan? Okay, I'm in floor plan, Plenum 1. Let's go into visibility graphics and see where our spaces are at. I may have, come on, actually bear with me just one second. Let's look and see what spaces we have in here. I'm going to go to my space schedule. No, okay, we should be good. Just making sure because didn't have spaces left over from practicing this. I'm going to go to visibility graphics, and normally you cannot see your spaces until you click on them. And if you have already done this, if I expand spaces, I have something called interior. If I check this box, then they will always be visible. Reference is the X. If I check that box, then that X is always visible. We may or may not use that one. So right now I've just checked reference, turn this on, and I know what I did. Okay. I am seeing spaces in every room. The entire building is filled in, and I know that's not right. But like I said, when I was messing around with it, I set my view range. Alrighty, welcome to live radio. Let me see if I can figure out what I did wrong here. Underlay, set the underlay to none. I should not be seeing spaces right now. Well, Chris, do you want to talk about something?
Sure.
Do you want to talk? We have
Plenum 1 up to 2 foot. I think you left Plenum 1 at 7 foot.
Oh, did I leave it there? Thank you, wise person. Oh, yes. Thank you, whoever that was. Give me a shout out.
That was me.
No,
Duh. Aaron had nothing to do with that. He's not even paying attention to the webinar.
There we go. Thank you,
It's all
Aaron.
me. No, it's me.
I mean, yeah. There we go. I fixed it once and then I hit undo so I
gotta
can demonstrate
erase those
something.
replies.
Erasing the technical questions. There we go. So the blue areas are spaces. Now, why do I already have spaces in some part? Actually, I don't know if anybody's quick enough at typing. Any guesses on why I can see some spaces in here? These blue areas, the kind of light blue. Well, it looks sort of green on the other monitor. So I'm just stalling for a minute to see if anybody has.
It's more of a sea foam or a sage.
It is kind of a sage seafoam color, at least on the one monitor.
Because you have no plenum spaces set in those, is why it's different color.
Right, but why am I seeing any blue-green seafoam?
Because those are waiting for you to add plenum spaces to it.
No, that's a good guess, though. Those are the ones that already have spaces. Because the space already extends up into the plenum, it goes up to the slab above, those areas basically don't have a drop ceiling. So they're not running into that bounding element.
Right. Those are hallways in the big gymnasium.
Yep, exactly.
Kind of what I was getting to.
Okay. So you're right. Just didn't sound right. So I'm on the section view again. You can see that it's space on the right extends all the way up till it hits the slab, till it hits the floor slab above. The other ones are stopped by a bounding element, which is the ceiling. So the one on the right, in fact, if I select this one, there we go. If I select that one, that's going to be the only one. And I just did a Control-Tab, brings me back to my previous view, and keeps it selected. You can see this item on this hallway. That's the corridor that's cutting through my section. So that's the same one. It already has a space extending up to the plenum, so I don't want to add one there. And that's why I don't use the Add All, where are we at? Analyze tab. I don't add don't add spaces to every. There we go. Start the command. Place spaces automatically. That will add them to all your rooms, all your available rooms. But I don't want to do that because some of these already have that, and I'd end up with duplicates, redundant spaces, and that will make your load calculations a little worse instead of better. So place spaces automatically. Important safety tip. I always forget to do this, and I have to hit undo again. I want to, in my options bar, set the upper limit to level 2. I know they're not going to go any higher than that with an offset of 0. So just stop at level 2 with no difference. There's my level 2. I know they will not go any higher than this, the spaces I'm creating in the plenum here. So let me go back and finish my command. So I do need to place them manually. When I place them, you know what? I'm going to, you can see I've been messing with this file before. I just ended my command. I'm going to make these start with the number 9,000 so that I can tell the difference. The ones that I've added to plenums are really high numbers. I can start with 10,000, just something that's very obvious to me that these are not normal rooms. So I can go to my schedule and I can easily select those. I'll start the command again because I did the renumbering. Add spaces, because now Revit will, you can see auto numbering based on those, 9001, 9002, 9003. This is a little tedious, but it's not too bad. I'm just going to add spaces. Whoops. Oh, there was an error on that one, but I went too fast so you couldn't see it. I'll keep going, and we'll get that error again. So I'm adding spaces to these, and watch what happens when I add to this room. You can kind of see the X is too large. Something funny is going to happen here. It tells me that space volumes overlap, adjust the upper limit, blah, blah, blah. Well, technically that's not what I need to do, but there's 9 other errors. So I hit escape, I ended the command, cancel it, and if I select this space that I just added, oh, that's much bigger than the room. And in fact, you can see that it's overlapping with the corridor. Yeah, there's too much there. I don't want to do that. Now I can delete this space and hit delete on the keyboard. I can hit delete up here in the ribbon. But I get another warning. A space was deleted from the model views, but still remains in the project. This space can be removed from any schedule, or I can actually place it back using the space command. So I didn't actually delete the space. The space is still there with this, everything except its location. It still has the data. And let me show you where I can access that. So I start the space command by default, level 2, and I really, really wish it would remember my last settings for this. Instead of creating a new space, oh, there it is, 9012. That's the one I deleted, but it still remains in the project. So I could have gone in there and customized it, and in fact, I can have a whole list ahead of time. Before even, it's another one of these tips that will help make Revit a little faster, if it applies to you. It may or may not be useful in every project, but let me just throw it out there. Say you do a lot of hospitals, or a lot of hotels, or a lot of similar projects. I can have a spreadsheet list or a spreadsheet type of list in Revit with all my rooms. You know, maybe I know ahead of time that there's going to be 5 conference rooms, 120 guest rooms, 2 laundry rooms, 1 IT server room, 5 offices, whatever. I can set the guest rooms, have these load calcs, have these HVAC settings. I can say the IT server room has these settings. In fact, let me show you some of the settings that can be used. Come on, cancel. If I select one of these rooms, any of these properties and more. So I have energy analysis, it is occupiable, it's heating and cooled. What's the space type? Maybe this one is a dining area. There we go. Dining area, is it hotel, is it family dining, motel, transportation, is it a penitentiary? And as I move through these, you can see the values on the right, which I'm fairly confident, although it's been a while since I looked into it, are pulled from ASHRAE. These are ASHRAE values pre-populated. Let me do dining area hotel. And if I want, I can still override these values and say, no, this is going to be denser. It's going to be 12 square feet area per person. I can customize these values, the heat gain, the latent heat gain. Maybe it's Savannah. It's going to be in Alaska. Maybe there's people wear parkas all year long, or Minnesota, and there's less heat gain per person. You can come in and customize these values. So now I've told Revit that this area is a dining area, the one that's highlighted, and the analysis will use that. I can say that this area is a gymnasium. If I customize this space type, so right now Revit, if I don't tell Revit, it doesn't know, and it just makes everything a generic building type, which I can set. I can say, well, it's a hotel or a school or a penitentiary, but then Revit just puts in a default value for all the spaces until I tell it that this is a, what is this? I think this is a gymnasium.
These spaces are plenum. Shouldn't a plenum be checked under the space properties?
That's an excellent question. The one I have selected right now is a gymnasium. It's extending up through my view range. So the one I have selected is not a plenum, but I will get back to you in just a moment. And yes, that is an excellent question. So gymnasium, let's see if gymnasium's in here. I forget what it's called. We'll call it, there it is. It's under E for exercise. So I'm going to set this space to be gymnasium. You can see the area per person is much larger. I've got this for different heat gains. This will help make your calculations much more accurate if you do them in Revit. And it will save you some time, probably, when you export it to the other program, whatever program you might be using. It already has these values with it. So, yes, yeah. Well, let me get back to that in just a minute. Often 2 tangents, or 2 tangents deep right now. So we got back into the space. I add the space. I can see already that it's extending outside these walls. Well, why is that? I'm going to cancel the command because I need to fix this first. The reason it's extending outside the walls is because these walls don't go all the way up to the ceiling. They don't go all the way up to the slab. So Revit sees that as not being a bounded space, and it's just spilling over until it finds a boundary, which is often the external walls. So I'm going to create a space separator, which is a line. It's a 2D line, but it's what Revit calls a datum element. So I'm just drawing in a line. You can see
it's like a reference line.
It is like a reference line. It's even green like a reference line. I need to correct a couple of those.
It doesn't have to be exact.
No, it doesn't have to be. So yeah, I should keep going. But they do need to be enclosed. So these two ends need to be coincident. They need to be on the same place.
Cohabitate.
Well, that's not quite the word I was looking for. Ooh, coincide works. So let me grab these two and just drag them and drop. Okay, whatever. Just going to keep moving just for the sake of time. Now that that room is enclosed by these lines, they're just 2D lines. They only exist in this view. They're categorized as annotation elements. More specifically, they're datum elements because they are annotation, but they behave like model is how I describe those. Now I can put the space in here. I can see, oh, this one's going to be the same way. You know what? Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to, well, you've got the point. I've added spaces in here. Some of them I need to put in these space boundaries just to make them work, and that's where it starts to get complicated. So as somebody asked, shouldn't these be plenum spaces? Yes, I can check them all here, although some of those, you see some of these that don't have numbers already existed, so those are not going to be plenum spaces. So I could select them all at the window and then hold down Shift to deselect these that I don't want. Oh, I definitely don't want that corridor. I think, oh, and I need, if I hold down Control, you probably can't see it, but there's a little tiny plus next to my mouse. We'll add to the selection. Oh, but I don't want that one. And hold down Control. Okay, that one needs to be fixed. That needs a reference plane. Now I can set all of these at once to be plenum spaces. You can see I have 189 elements. I know that's way too much. Oh, that's because I got the diffusers in there. I could use the filter. I could check none and just get spaces. I don't even want space tags. I just want spaces. There's 12 spaces. Now I can set these all to be plenum. In my properties, oh, stop it. I can set these to be not occupiable. I can set it not to be heated, not cooled, but unconditioned. Or you know what, there's a checkbox just for plenum, and that does the other checkboxes for me. So I can do that by selecting, but I may have gotten too many things. Another way to do that, and this is why I did the renumbering, if I go to my space schedule, let's go all the way to the bottom. The other rooms, 4,000, 5,000, they start with the 1,000 series. If I select these in my schedule, they are all selected in my view plan also because it's the same items. Now I can also go to the properties and set those to be plenums. That might be a safer way to do it. There we go. Looks like I did get something different last time. And check those to be plenums. So let me get back to my slides before I get off on another tangent. So we added the level. We used that level to make a floor plan. We added spaces in that floor plan. Now if I had more time, I would keep adding more spaces and customizing it and adding space separator lines as necessary whenever the walls don't go to the ceiling or if there's anything funny going on with the ceiling levels, the wall levels. Rooms with higher or lower ceilings can make it more complicated. I'll just very, very briefly show you what to do with those, and then I'm going to continue just for the sake of time. I have a section already in here. Let me see what that section looks like. So I selected the section, right-click, go to View. You can also double-click on the head, but only if it's not selected. And you can see my level, my plenum level. There it is. I can drag it on out. And, oh, I can see if I make a space from the plenum level to level 2, that's not going to work for this area where the cafeteria and the kitchen is at. I need to make for some of them the plenum level higher. I'll set plenum level 2 as my upper limit, or roof 1 to be the maximum height, because Revit will stop the spaces if it hits something bounding, or whatever level you set is the highest, whichever it hits first. So it's safer to specify something higher. But this one is actually above level 2. The ceiling in here for the cafeteria, it doesn't even start. The plenum space doesn't start until it's above level 2. So I would actually have to make another plenum level for this one because it's safer to be a little higher. And then I can even offset it. Let me just show you where that property is at. So let's say I've placed one in this level, and I'll save the time by not creating a plenum level. I can set my lower offset to be a negative number, and I can put it in the properties here. But I can't I don't want to go too high because then the calculation level gets confused. So I'm not going to go through that just for the sake of time. I'm going to come back to my floor plan. I'm going to come back to my slides. So we added spaces. Just know that rooms with higher or lower ceilings can make it a little more complicated. And let me go ahead and run a calculation. Coming back to Revit, and well, I haven't added these spaces, but I'm going to run the calculation. Anyway, I have heating and cooling loads. Oh, see, now my tooltips are showing up, at least on this monitor. They were not showing up earlier. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that too, the tooltip, when I hover over the command. I'm going to run this command. It's going to bring up the dialog box. Oh, there you can see where I got my screenshot earlier. This is just spaces. There's no furniture, there's no floor slabs, no windows, no entourage, no people, no mechanical equipment, no lighting, no plumbing fixtures, just spaces and zones and surfaces and the area and the things that go along with those, the values that go along with those. I can isolate those so you can see what's in each of my zones. Every one of these is a zone which is made up of spaces. So there you can see all the corridors. You can see they're different heights. Now you can see why it was a little more complicated in some of those areas. And I haven't even added all of them. There's the default because I haven't gotten very far. I have individual spaces. I can highlight them. I can isolate them. Or see the whole model. You can see it's highlighted. So this is just a quick way of showing you. There you can hopefully see this blue area. That's the plenum that I just added. And you can see the numbers are in the 9,000. So it's above the ceiling. It's above the space, above the room. And they have their own values. They can have their own values. You can see at the bottom the space type for all of these is set to plenum. If I grab a different space, a classroom, you can see it's still set to the building default. If I selected see if I can grab it without taking too much time, the gymnasiums, oh, I can't click on it. I'd have to find it, and that would take me too long. If I selected the gymnasium, you can see I've already customized that one to be exercise area gymnasium with the different heating and cooling load values. There's some other values in here. I can look at the general. Here's where I can set my location, and here's where I can set my building type. So if I don't specify room by room, it's going to use this default. I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to keep these at the same so you can see the comparison. Location, by default, Revit puts it in Boston because that's where Revit was invented, and I bet Chris even knows that. Remember how to pronounce the city near Boston where all the original Revit guys are at?
Waltham?
Yes, they pronounce the H in Waltham, which is right next to Boston. So I'm going to leave this as
right by Billerica.
Yes, it is. Chris is pretty good with his geometry. Geography? Oh, it's one of them words. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and click Calculate. Just going to go with the default settings. And while that's calculating, because it takes a minute, come back to my slides. So we've added some items above the ceiling. You can kind of see here, trying to put together a slide that shows a 2D plan. Instead of drawing line circles and arcs, we're now doing a virtual building. And results should be something like this. Earlier, before adding the plenum spaces, hopefully you can see there, the peak cooling load was 2.185 million BTUs. Let's see if Revit is finished. There we go. My peak cooling load now, 2.2 million BTUs. So we went from, well, almost 2.2. But if I had continued this, if you see the lower number on the the lower left, down to 1.7 is the peak cooling load. And so that number is actually quite a bit more accurate now that and then the slide here I added a lot more plenums. I didn't do all of them, but I added quite a bit more yesterday just so I can have a reasonable number. It's 1.7. Look all the way down to the bottom on the left, 1.077 is a peak heating load. Previously it was 1.4 million BTUs. So it's a little more accurate. There's still a lot more we can do, but just by adding these plenum spaces in there, you can see it made quite a bit of a difference. So 1.077, 1.36. So I need to do some more work on this one. I haven't added very many plenums to the building yet. Let me see. Is there anything I've forgotten here? We can do a quick review and see if we've covered all the steps. We created the plenum level. These are the very, very basic steps. We created a level just to make plenums. You'll probably need to do more than one. We created a floor plan from that where we could add space elements. It had a very different view range because I just want to look above the ceiling, not below the ceiling and not above the slab. We added the spaces, and then we set the properties as Plenum. They're just a checkbox for Plenum, which makes it unconditioned and unoccupied. So we've talked about spaces. Oh, sorry, wrong kind of space. Some of the, well, actually, is there any questions or anything about upcoming events that you guys want to hear about?
One of the things that's important to everybody that's in here is we're going to be having a Revit MEP users group coming up tomorrow night at RMH Group.
Okay, cool.
So if you guys are interested in that, email me at cporter, C-P-O-R-T-E-R, at CAD- or -1.com. I'll send you the information on that. I think it's starting at 6 o'clock. We'll be talking about, I think they're building families and such in there. So it's up at the top of Colfax, right across the street from Martin & Martin at RMH Group. So there you have it.
Cool. Is there any, so there's Chris's address. Send him an email, I'll give you more information. Is there any questions? Okay, good. So either I've put everybody to sleep or I've explained it really well and there's no questions. Hopefully you can, I'm just going to change this slide so you won't be able to see Chris's email anymore, but it's cporter@cad-1.com. Some upcoming webinars, September 10, yes, that's today at 1:30, so shortly after lunch. Brian Juge is going to be going through design review for Revit, which is the DWF format. It's Autodesk Answer to PDF. It's typically a little more accurate than you can do with PDFs. But there's other things you can do with PDFs. There's a lot of things you can do with PDFs, and they're kind of the de facto standard. But Brian will be covering about, in a webinar today, about design review for Revit. Later this week on Thursday is the infamous Revit Radio with Brian Mackey and Stan Hinney.
That means more than famous. Infamous.
Infamous.
Yes. Also, we're going to be doing a class coming up. It is Revit for Principals. So if you know anybody that's out there, it's going to be more around the architectural arena from what I understand. But it's going to be, so the big cheeses know what's going on in their office, as well as a Bluebeam class. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have seen Bluebeam. If you haven't seen Bluebeam, get familiar with it because it's hitting hard and heavy right now, and everybody seems to be switching over to it. So take a look at that. We are an official Bluebeam reseller, so hit me up if you're interested in that. Also, we brought Carla in because we're going to talk a little bit about our mobile training classes. So if you know anybody that needs training, Carla.
So I am actually in the process of putting together trainings once a month in different locations all around Colorado and Wyoming. And right now I'm got the schedule pretty set through May of next year. And as soon as we've got that complete, I'm going to make sure that everyone gets that information. We also have, if there's anybody looking for specific needs for your company, we do custom training as well. So if anyone has any questions on the mobile training lab, Tony can probably put my email address up on the screen as well. But it's kfitch@cad-1.com. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about any of that information.
Cool. Thanks, Carla.
Yeah.
So again, we're trying to bring the training to you guys. Anybody that's off, not conveniently located in Denver, we can bring those labs out to you. We do bring the computers out as well as the instructors and such. And the cost is not that much more than taking a standard class here in Denver. So it's something really worthwhile for you guys to look at if you guys do have offices outside of just the Denver metro area.
Yeah, I know. We typically have people from all over the country.
Tony just got back from
Reno.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it went really well. Just electrical. It was custom, just electrical firm, so we didn't cover any plumbing or mechanical. And we can do vice versa. We can do just mechanical or just plumbing or all three or whatever needs to be done.
And if anyone has requests for a class that you'd like to see in your area, I would really love to hear about that as well.
Maybe we get a class up in Rapid City or something if we can get enough people.
Do it in July?
Do it in August. So
August.
First week and a half in August is what we're thinking. Shouldn't be too busy out there. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want us to come out there, we will come out there. We've actually had some companies just want us to go out custom or just do a regular standard class. But yeah, talk to your bosses and then get us out there. Maybe we'll bring you guys some free gifts, along the way too.
Chris the Swagman.
Bring you some swag out there, definitely.
Okay. There's an AIA conference coming up in October. There's a Denver BIM Forum coming up. These are on our website. Denver BIM Forum coming up I was going to say in Denver, but that's probably kind of
I would
obvious.
say there's a BDAG meeting. I believe it's next Monday.
I believe so.
Here at CAD-1, as well as Rhombus. I believe that's on Tuesday. So,
Yes. This meeting, I forget, is that going to be at, wow, complete brain freeze.
I'm not sure, but go to, I think it's Meetup and then ROMBIS. Type those in there. But yeah, you in the MEP industry, take a look. Just email me and I'll send you the information over for the Revit MEP users group, which is tomorrow. That's something that's pretty important.
Yeah, and that usually goes, it's typically a smaller group, so you can ask your questions, you can get answers.
Yep. Lots of, really knowledgeable people in that group.
Yeah.
So also, just a heads up, the Broncos did score 7 touchdowns.
What's that mean, Chris?
It means the Broncos rock.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like,
Yeah.
buy one, get one free pizzas at some place if they scored.
Oh, that was yesterday.
7, that was just, okay.
Yeah.
If they scored 7 touchdowns, or it's like $7 pizzas or something.
Actually, it was at Red Robin. It was buy a burger, get a burger type thing.
Okay.
So anyway,
And we
yeah.
have suites camps coming up. October
Go Broncos.
29 is Building Design Suites Camp on the 29th, and October 30th is Infrastructure Design Suite for those other engineers. But anything you want to cover on those? Okay, those are on our website. More information on those is on our website, which I just happened to pull up.
Yeah, and if you guys know of any events that you would like to see us at, and any conventions or stuff that's coming up, please let us know about those too. We try and go to everything, so you guys can see us out there. We try and support as many groups as possible, but sometimes we miss stuff. We've actually missed one that was fairly recently too. But just let us know. Shoot me an email. Shoot Carla an email. Shoot Tony an email. Just let us know. We'll try and go out there because we like supporting everybody that's out there. Even if there's anything in Rapid City, I'll go out to Rapid City again. I don't remember it too much in August, but.
Alrighty, well thank you. If you want to follow us, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as just Revit Dork. I try and send out it's not very frequent, but Revit specific items. Spam, I don't like to be spam, so I try not to send any spam. Or if I find out about job openings, I've had some people ask me about that. So if I find out, I'll try and send those out.
Yeah, if you guys know anybody in Revit architecture that knows Revit architecture fairly well and lives up north around Fort Collins, let me know. I have a company looking to hire some people, so that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you again next time.